I just have another final blog that we'll be talking about. It's basically um, this is some interesting stuff like interactive maps. Basically, when we are exploring different urbanscapes and when it comes to cartography and mapping, right, it's actually very important how the data plays a vital role. So this I've been working on different projects like open source projects wherein we're trying to come up with how data can be leveraged in urban design. That is the scene and the topic that I've been like, focusing on, right? So this basic piece talks about three different open source libraries available in Python for free, which can be used to basically create these interactive maps. So firstly, interactive maps, the importance of it is basically you cannot even think of like how interactive visualization would help a particular business use case versus a simple a bar graph or a thing which tries to drive a certain point, right? So where an interactive will the user will actually be able to interact with that particular visualization or basically the data underlying which is actually the business, right? And then he'll be able to come up with different options, and that is again like as I told, data driven insight. So the way this basically happens is basically all you need is data again, right? So basically we have some tools like GIS and all that, which talks about geospatial analysis. But basically for us architect to just start with, or a urban designer just to visualize, let us say a particular piece of a site or a geolocation that he's focusing on for his design, what will actually help is trying to understand how all the data which is surrounding it, or which is actually impacting that particular region is distributed firstly, right? So firstly this I start with like a simple tool called Altair, which is available, a Python resource. uh, so it is a simple and fast implementation with there are a lot of readily available sets which are helpful for creating simple maps. Just to start with, the choropleth maps is basically these maps which are like tiles have been like colored of each color represent certain things, and we can actually plot this numeric features on different areas. Like for example, if you look at this map of India, which each state has been colored in a different way, like um, actually, this is a simple project that we started. Like we had a simple data set of a number of facial recognition technologies that are being installed in different states, right? So we just started with a simple data set having like each state has how many numbers. Like let us say Maharashtra has got some 10 different projects that have been plotted. So this basically kind of helps us visualize that entirely on a simple map, and as and when a person clicks on it, it would actually help. The user to get more details about. It could be either like drill down to that particular section, and there could be some subsections inside that, so that could be like visualized, or it would just give us a hover about like what is the details and the data that is talking about that particular piece. So it's just visualization, but actually it actually helps us a lot of things, explore a lot of things in terms of the geolocations. So ITER is one simple implementation that we started with, and um, so we need this geometry. We have these shape files that that are backed inside like a particular polygon, and then each polygon will have a name. Like in this case, it's a state name. So each of these state will have that polygon, and once you like pass in all this information to this basic function of Altair, it would just give out a final the implementation of the entire map. Now there are a lot of other things that can also be done in terms of like customizing it, in terms of creating some pop-ups and explaining it a lot of detail and granularity. And similarly, Plotly is another implementation where it kind of goes to the next level, where we can also interact it in a much detailed, granular way. Wherein, like once you click on it, you can just again link what automatically, it's reactive in that nature. Wherein if you once you click on a particular plot, it will take you zoom in, and then it would actually give out some more details about that particular plot. And it's again a similar implementation, wherein like you again it's just including a shape file, and just creating some base figures, adding some tiles and interactivity to that. And so there's a lot of even the tiles. Basically, you can just customize it based on this. Is basically a simple black and white tile, but you could actually get satellite images to understand, let us say, different use cases and basic, the satellite imagery, which will actually help us understand the land use cases as well. So all that is again possible. And finally, again, another one more very important implementation is Folium. Folium is a like a very useful JavaScript library, which is based on like leaflet.js library, which actually gives us a lot more control in terms of plotting all these maps, and you can actually create separate pop-ups, and once you click on a particular plot, it would actually help us divert or go into a different map itself and see and try to understand what is happening inside that granularly. So it's basically all these three does the same thing of helping us visualize all these metrics in terms of maps. But a lot of things, other things are possible based on the different utilities inside that. Like the way we use this is GeoJSON and TopoJSONs. And again, this shapefile is what is the backbone of this entire feature. So this just talks about the technical part of it. So what I also have is basically a simple implementation within Power BI. So this is the basic Power BI desktop that I have. So I'm just talking about the workflow that I do. Like basically, this is a sample data set, but when I get get hold of a simple data set that can actually be inserted into this Power BI as a table inside this, and then that could be used for visualizing different things. So in this case, I'm just using a Mapbox visualization inside Power BI, wherein I have a simple data set. I'll just show you how this looks. So this is how it looks. Basically, it just is a list of all the districts that we have as part of India, and there are different attributes of that particular thing, like what is the literacy rate, sex ratio, area, population density, working population rate. So these are different metrics of that particular district. And this is as simple as that. Like we just have a location and then its attributes. So it's pretty simple and powerful to actually visualize this inside the map, which actually helps us understand. Like visually looking at a table will actually not give you anything, right? But when you visualize this in terms of a two-dimensional map or even 3D, basically what it gives us is this sense of understanding of all the configurations. Just think of it, this is just an implementation at a country level, but think of it just as a city level implementation, where that could actually help us understand the the impediments in city, the things that could actually affect our designs of particular site. So in that way, it's actually helpful. And one more aspect of using this Power BI is leveraging this functionality of you know these filters that could actually work. So if you look at here, so this is talking about different filters, wherein I'm just filtering this based on, let us say I just want to look at the districts, all the districts where the working population rate, let us say, is starting from 25 to all the way till 56%, right? So now if you look at, there's a lot of lot more districts that have been shortlisted here, highlighted, and you can actually get into details of it. Like if you click on a particular thing, it actually speaks about that particular area and what all things that that attribute has got.
I see. And I think this is quite insightful, and it's great to like see through the interface. Uh, I'm curious. So Mapbox, when you import it, it has attributes. So for the table, did you like download another database and then link that database with Mapbox?
Um, okay, so the way it works is basically Mapbox will have something called tile sets by default. So let me
Mm-hmm.
just open that quickly. Uh, okay. So there's something called tile sets, wherein like you can just import your existing shape files, or you can just get it from Mapbox. It's OpenStreetMap. So what it does is basically it will give you details about, like basically it is a shape file, and then once you have this in as a tile set in your Mapbox, what it would generate is a key a layer key, which can then be imported inside your Power BI. Here, if you actually select this map box visualization, there's an option inside your visualization settings. You could just put your access token key first as authentication, and then there's something called Mapbox API URL where you can just put your tile set key there, so you can just get your data imported. It's all in cloud, right? So that's where you just get it from that Mapbox.
Oh, I see. So in Power BI, you call the Mapbox API. It has all the
Yes.
data which is hosted on cloud and okay.
Right. It's not necessarily hosted on Node. Like basically, this table that I have, it's a local table that I have. The only tile set is basically coming from the cloud, from the Mapbox. So if you want to say, let us say, I wanted to add a particular attribute here. Let us say for each district, I have some data with me locally of what is the, let us say, um, literacy or something like literacy rate of. I just wanted to add a new column, which is possible, right? Then directly that can be like in real time it would actually start showing up here in terms of that attribute for a particular piece.
Yes. Yeah, I think Mapbox is a really useful tool. I came across it like last semester, and a lot of
Yes.
visualization could be done. And it because of the API, it's so easy that I can easily like create a website and host it on the website to showcase all the visualizations.
There's a
So
lot
if
of
I
other functionalities as well, like it enables us to come up with all these different maps like geocoder, heat maps, clusters, cloud plus, which is what I did here. It's basic coloring of all these and raster tiles. So all of these functionalities they have just Mapbox is basically the implementation on cloud is so vast, but all of them they have tried to build, kind of get it into this Power BI implementation as well, which is actually great. Like we can, I've seen actually a lot of analysis being done in terms of site planning when it comes to this. So I'm actually trying to get started on that. I'm trying to explore still. Like there's a lot of visualizations that can actually help the planning of particular piece in terms of architecture or urban design as well. So it's great tool to explore.
yeah, Srihari, I have a question. So for example, if in Mapbox website I can play with the layers, opacity, color, data, why should one import that in Power BI?
Right. So it's basically Power BI will actually have a lot of other things as well. Like let us say if you have your database, right? Like you are dealing with certain use cases, and then you want some kind of geospatial analysis to be plugged into your thing. So that is where it kind of helps us a lot. Like basically by native filtering and all that, the Power BI is extremely powerful in terms of manipulating data and trying to create this interactive stuff. Let us say if you just want to, you're doing on an urban design project and you have a lot of data that you've already been working with. So Power BI is a tool for that. Like the Mapbox implementation can actually complement that, and you could get more insights in terms of let us say environmental aspects of it or anything that has to do with maps, right? So that it acts like a plugin or a complement for your existing analysis. So even otherwise, you can just explore this within Power BI in order to leverage all these tools of the filtering and all that. It's all interactive. And another good thing with Power BI is basically once you have a proper license, you can just actually publish different reports and share it across different stakeholders. It's like a business intelligence tool. So that is the advantage of Power BI integration with Power BI.
Is it, and when you say report, like does it like producing charts or graphics from the map?
Yes. So Power BI reports are essentially basic sheets or dashboards, as we could call. Basically, it's interactive, right? Like if you publish this entire sheet and like share it with a different stakeholder who's like responsible or like interested in this data, so he also gets to do this interaction. Like maybe he can just adjust this and basically this entire design as a report can also be documented and shared with them so that they could utilize this and try to get the insights directly on, like, on hands-on insights, instead of like a simple a report which would say that we have found that this is what it is and all that. It's a instead of basic a PPT or a presentation. This is an interactive next level of report wherein you can just let the end user also interact with your reports.
See, like, so it gives much more flexibility to end user in terms of dashboard interactivity and experiment, just
Yes,
explore. I see.
right, exactly.
And any other like things you have seen use cases where either in geospatial analysis or BIM people have integrated Power BI?
Uh, yeah, there's a lot of things happening like Power BI. Like initially that I've introduced to this going ground. Basically, they have a lot of use cases like be it like Rhino Revit integration. This is again a very useful integration that kind of helps us to get the BIM, the part of Revit integrated into Rhino, wherein you can just use like these scripts and parameter design to actually iterate different designs. And once that entire design is conceptualized, then you can just bring it to Power BI and try to play with a lot of things in terms of understanding it, and even for us to as a present it to our clients or the stakeholders. This will be extremely useful. So this is one aspect, and apart from that, a lot of things are happening in terms of geospatial analysis. Uh, like we've seen, the previous podcast I've been watching, like a lot of things in terms of um, these apart from these APIs that I have talked about in this use case, where it's just like a basic plot client volume. There's also a lot of things are happening in terms of using machine learning on these plot geospatial analysis part. So I'm yet to try on those things, but yeah, a lot of things are happening in terms of the data being backed in terms of urban design and all these things. It's exciting times to be in, and like a lot of things to explore. But yeah, I think slowly in India this penetration is getting slightly the traction, and I'm hoping that a lot of people will come up and leverage these tools to kind of build different things which actually matter.
Yeah, I really hope like more and more people get aware and start deploying it, and also there is some mechanism of like people teaching or training the
Yes,
the newer generation. So
right.
uh, I wanted to ask is like based on your experience, we covered Mapbox, we covered Plotly, Folium. What are some tools, libraries one should be aware of if they want to do data science or architecture or urban planning?
Yes, that's a good question. So basically, a lot of people just approached me saying that how are these things even possible? Like being like an architect who's not even introduced to basic coding, like unlike engineers, right? So it's I feel it's actually very important to understand the programming is an essential skill, like be it for architects or any creative person, right? Like so I would suggest Python. Definitely one needs to understand the basic concepts, and then there are a lot of libraries that are Python being like a very high level language. It's pretty simple to implement a lot of these implementations without actually getting your hands on into these scratch building from scratch all these implementations. It's pretty simple. So Python is basically a prerequisite for any person to get into this and trying to explore data, be it data science or analysis or anything. And then uh, to be able to like load the data, pandas is one library which actually helps us do that. Like it's basic data science, one of the ones, right? Extract like a certain part of a table. That is something as a prerequisite a person needs to know. And apart from that, a lot of these things like they kind of explored here. Like if one is interested in geospatial analysis, you can just look into these three different libraries: Arter, Plotly, and Folio. Apart from this, a lot of simple visualizations like Matplotlib and other things. But basically, these are prerequisites, and uh, these are kind of good to have knowledge on. Because basically if you try to explore. But Python, basically once you start exploring Python, there's a lot of things that try to will be opening up, and it's kind of takes you through that journey of exploring different things by default.
Yeah, that's a really good piece of advice. And I, what from my experience, I think once you start going deeper into the Python, you'll find like programming is so efficient. Like people have developed libraries, so you don't need to write the same function from scratch. So, and a lot of
Yes.
additional functionality can be added. So it's it will open one's wings that okay, I could do this in JavaScript, I could do this in Python and animation with database.
Yes, exactly. uh, and also the age that we are in, basically creating these apps and starting your own stuff, as easy as it could be. Like it was never this easy, and there are a lot of tools that you can just leverage and get started without thinking about how to implement it. And that is the exciting times that we are currently in. I just hope like people will start leveraging this in a good way, and the try to improve the architecture scene here in this country and globally as well.
Yeah. And like in India, if someone is interested to learn, like where can one find community or those experts or like-minded people who are doing data science in architecture or
Um, yeah, I've been trying to find that. I as it were, it's a comparatively a new and a rare kind of scenario wherein an architect would look into these different aspects of data science. But I guess like the community who's actually interested in technology basically will need some orientation towards what exactly needs to be done. Uh, as I told, like this is different trend of being and technology being used for just generating these aesthetic designs which are not like essentially useful. So there needs to be this revolution that we need to bring, and I am actually very glad that you're trying to do something very similar, like you and as well as some of the folks who you started creating this kind of content and trying to explore all these trying to create podcasts from different technologies and people in architects and all that. uh, I think that is where we need to focus more and trying to impart this information and knowledge, so that we kind of create this community and start working towards all these useful technologies.
yeah, like I think there are very like few people I have seen who are trying to like share knowledge. Digital future is also a good one. And the thing I feel bad is like even I knew about AI, but I didn't experiment it because like in civil engineering or architecture workflow, there was not a point that okay, you can't solve this task without AI. But once I experimented it, once I looked into what are the possibilities with data science, thought, oh my god, there's so much stuff which you could improve in the AEC productivity or development which we haven't explored. And that's why like I think once we develop simple interfaces or share more and more knowledge, people will get more aware and start getting into it. Because to learn it, knowledge is everywhere in YouTube about like machine learning or AI course, but it's the translation of how AI can change architecture, construction, that that experience or awareness is missing. So that's why I interview a lot of people who are doing some cutting edge work.
Right, exactly. Also, the way it happens is there are two aspects to it. Like one is solving the existing use cases of trying to optimize and improve the different processes that we've already been following, which actually digitization or like basically digital transformation of these industries would actually help. But the what AI and ML brings to the table is basically the different scenarios which are untapped yet. Like it will expose us to these different possibilities which otherwise we would not think of it. Like we do not even know that something of this sort is possible unless we try to explore this. So it's actually important to come out of this entire thing and look at objectively and try to understand what is happening in tech space, like different industries like finance and all that. Especially with the kind of startups and the age that we are in, especially the economy that uh, uh, kind of revolutionized everything, right? So it's actually important for even our community to build this thing up and try to revolutionize. And I think that the way the conventional architecture is being practiced inside be it India or world, right?
Okay. And like I didn't study architecture in India. Like I did it for my master's. So I don't know like what will be the best way to get it out among students or young community. Because I one of my friends said like they have like organized NASA, which is an architectural fest. I see a lot of like Indian architecture students learning new software or getting into computational design. So it's not that they are not like they want to learn software, but if we can like start introducing this AI or data science based workshop along with those computational workshops, I think that could be a good start.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. Yeah, I do agree that these inventions of NASA and a lot of other things that happen, which like people, especially architecture students, are very interested. Even I was part of a lot of these competitions as part of my graduation. Uh, that is one aspect of it is like the personal interest from a particular person, but also what is actually needed in the industry is like encouragement in terms of the practicality of it, right? Like once a person, let us say, he kind of tries to learn everything in AI, he has some ideas, but what does he do once he comes out of that? Like, is there any support in terms of implementation, starting up, and all that? So that is something which needs to change. Wherein like we need to come up with different startups who and only then like backed by different different persons in the industry in terms of economy and finance. uh, that is what is going to bring that revolution of and then slowly these clients will also start understanding the importance of these data driven and how that could actually impact their lives in terms of the decisions that they make for going with AI based models and all that. So it is a long process, and slowly that adaptation, I'm hopeful, will happen. And this is happening in global level. At least it would take some time, at least in India, to happen. That, but yeah, meanwhile that happens, I think students and basically academia should focus on these cutting edge technologies to prepare the architects. The conventional style is almost like obsolete now. Like it doesn't add any, the details like be it like a diploma student or a conventional civil engineer graduate will be able to do everything that architects will essentially do if they don't kind of leverage this technology.
Nice. And I think you raised a really good point because uh, from my experience, like the budget is tight in an architecture or in general firm. So if they want to have people doing R&D in AI, it's generally not feasible. Like for unless the company is very big and they have good funding. So two
Yes.
things is like even if someone learns what is the deployment or end use case, and I think a lot of people are currently working and they are finding integration of ML use cases. So once like in States and in Europe, I have seen like few startups doing it. And I think maybe a startup is a good way because it might be depending on how you do fundraising. If the idea is strong, and if you can convince
Yes.
the investor, you could buy some time to do more research and develop those tools. And once that goes into like media or client, then they'll start apply to more projects and even architecture firm can do subscribe to that software. So
Yes.
I think
Exactly.
you're right. Like in that pathway might be more feasible.
Right. I agree.
Hmm. But yes, students have time to learn this because like they're not using companies R&D. So I yeah, let's see if there are any student organization or any fest who are willing to do this kind of AI in design workshop?
Yes, so that will be a good start. Uh, Also, we need to basically inculcate this habit of exploring what is happening outside the industry, right? Like, uh, so if you look at these all these external say industries of fintech or commercial real estate technologies, wherein they would just like come up with a different idea and they would iterate it and they would be selling product like each any person if you look at in the industry will have two or three startup ideas and they'll be constantly hustling in terms of finding these. So that is something which the culture is something which I think needs to be inculcated in the the space here in architecture and civil engineering as well. Uh, so that is what would make a difference.
Yeah, dude. Like one of the reason I had to come to US because I couldn't do masters in architecture in India. Like the multidisciplinary thing is so
Yeah,
crucial, and I always be get more aware when like architects or AC folks say about technological innovation, because many times the thing which they say about innovation is like AR, VR, or some tech products from gaming industry or other industry which is just adopted and integrated, and because you have like capital could buy that
yeah,
and integrate and sell it to the client. They're doing this differently, but even for aerospace industry, we bought that software and Frank Gehry used it. So innovation is honestly it's very rare. I have seen in AEC. It's integration is a lot.
yeah, exactly. All these game engines and fancy stuff. It's just they're trying to integrate it, and there's hardly any innovation happening. Uh, Also that there's a huge time lag, like the time where these Unity engines are trying to be adopted in the let us say gaming industry. It's actually 10 years after that is what the architecture industry is trying to adopt that. So by the time it's already too late and obsolete.
They have something new, but
Yeah,
I think it's slowly it's becoming better where we are integrating those. But I think the point which you made is which is important is looking at a lot of other industries and finding like what thing they are doing very well. Can we integrate it or take some part of it that in our workflow to make it at least some percent better?
yeah, I agree.
Nice. So we covered a lot of things. It's
Yes.
already over 1 hour mark. Is there anything which we didn't discuss or any last thoughts you want to share?
Uh, yeah, I think we've discussed a lot of things. So this is just an attempt I've been trying since the past 2.5 years. So to trying to get into tapping these technology aspects of what can be utilized and how we can leverage this tools of data and artificial intelligence. So I just hope this a lot of people might get this inspiration of trying to do this as part of their exploration in terms of design or even post design. And a lot of things are still possible. What I've covered is just like a scratching the surface, not even like a 1% of what is actually possible, right? So, what is important according to me is having that knowledge of what else is achievable and what impact does it bring to the table. Like once you implement this, right, that is where you will be able to kind of go to the client or who's the stakeholder and let him know that this is what you need to do in order to get this leverage. So until and unless then there'll not be an encouragement from the beta stakeholders or the client side who's investing money into building all these projects. So I think that is what is important, and I'm hoping with all this kind of education that is happening and all these people, especially people like you who are trying to educate a lot of individuals through these podcasts and different documentations. I hope that this will kind of will progress towards the right direction, and we'll see some good change in the coming years.
Yeah, dude. Like, and like, thanks to you, like, who is open to sharing their knowledge and stuff, because then people are scattered in, in few places of in India who are who have expertise. It's like collecting them, sharing them, forming small community, and we need to take one step at a time. So even if like we're sharing content at least maybe 5 years or 10 years, people will realize, and then suddenly they will jump. So let's see.
Yes, I'm not right.
Yeah. All right. It was a fun discussion. Thanks a lot, Shri Hari, for your time to do this, and hopefully we can plan on something. If there is some workshop we could do in India, like I'm open to just meet people and also give a small presentation, because if
Sure.
even if people start working on theses related to AI or data science, they'll get more and more knowledge.
Yes, I think.